Hey everyone, Sycra here, and this is another episode of the Psychological Problems podcast. Today I'm joined by Flavia.
Hello.
And Bob Meatbag.
Hey.
The usual suspects. And the topic I thought we would talk about today is expectation. Because this is something I'm encountering a lot with both students and just people who reach out to me or even friends that I talk to. And it's something that's been going on for a very long time in terms of encountering similar stories over and over again. And they all revolve around, after thinking about it, they all revolve around this idea of expectation. Whether it's expecting, I expect that I need talent to become a good artist, or I expect that if I go to such and such school, I will become good, or I expect that I will get good in this many years. There's really a lot of expectation that I hear, and I think what is lacking is a lot of self-knowledge. So if you ask follow-ups, there doesn't seem to be that much in terms of, why do you think it will take you this many years to get good? Because you mentioned a year. Where is that coming from? I just thought, it's not really coming from a place of knowledge. It's coming from an assumption. And I thought maybe this podcast, we could talk about that. So I know you have some ideas on the topic, Flavia.
Yeah, I know we had a lot of, I don't know, maybe not a lot, but quite a handful of conversations about different styles of teaching and different roles the teacher has in a student's life. And for myself, I much prefer teachers who have a sort of give and take relationship with a student, where the teacher has more knowledge than you, has more life experience than you. However, you can challenge them. Like, you as a student have much more agency in terms of inquiring, in terms of basically using the teacher as a mentor, but you are the person who's wielding the teacher in a way. It's not just them holding your hand while they draw their picture, or, I don't know, guiding you. More like advice or answers to questions for your own progression, basically you're deciding your own direction as a student, and then the teacher can help you along the way or nudge you if you're really going off the beaten path or something.
Yeah, my thing is quite different. as we clash a lot. Yeah. My thing is almost fundamentalist. It sounds that way anyway.
Yeah.
But I have this phrase that I devised a long time ago, called submit, study, surpass. So step one is submit. So basically when I encounter a teacher, I keep a lot of my own personal things out of it. And it's more, okay, I want to learn this, but I'm going to follow the teacher's method exactly as best as I can, and do the thing the whole way with I guess it's an assumption, but that there is, maybe I don't understand something, but maybe it will be, I will become enlightened as time goes on. And that's happened a bunch of times with me, where it's like, they're saying to do this. I don't really know what the point is, but I'm just going to trust that that's correct, and I'll do it. Now, I never fully believe them. I don't think like, this is the way I have to do it, or I won't tell other people, you have to do it this way. But especially if I do have a teacher like that, who's very almost dictatorial, and this is the way to do it. I'll just, okay, I'll do it your way, and I'll see things exactly as you're doing it, so that I can figure out why. What is your thought process? Why do you say this way and not that way? And often what happens is I find out a bunch of reasons that, if I was doing this myself and I had taken charge and thought, I'm going to ask a question, I would have missed this thing because I'm coming at it from my life experience, from my philosophy, instead of adopting their philosophy. So I think the first thing I do is any pride I have has to be kept at bay, because I do have a pretty big ego. Other parts of me have bigger egos and some parts have smaller, but I do have this. I come with a lot of ego. So my first thing is submit. Forget your ego. Forget that you're good or not good, or this person is acting in a way that doesn't really please you. And then study as much as you can. Take in everything they're offering. And I will question when I don't know, but I won't antagonize or challenge. I will just, okay, so let me be clear. You wanted me to do this. Is this right? Or do I have this right? I'll ask for clarification. And then I feel like what I get is their pure instruction. And then I can look at it and go, aha, okay. Now, what are you missing that I've noticed? How could I try to improve this? And that's where the surpass part of it comes in. It's like, okay, now I've taken what you have and I'm going to build on top of it or extract things from it. But that's right at the end.
So basically for you, questions are more like distractions?
In a way, my questioning is, and maybe this is not right, but I view it as, okay, the words I'm going to use sound bad, but they're the first things that come into mind. It's defiance. It's letting you get in the way of what they're saying. It's assuming you can even know what to ask in a way. Like clarification is just, let me just be clear, this is what you want me to do, but I won't tell them like, no, I don't think this is right, or I think this is my thing. The one exception is if they tell me to do something that is actually hurting me physically. Like if they say, hold your pencil like this, and then I'm thinking, this doesn't feel right, I won't do it then. I will stand up like, this doesn't feel right. Could you explain why you want me to hold the pencil like this? Or could you show me? And then I'll try and decipher what is it about holding it that way that they're telling me to do that is working for them or producing a certain result. Or sometimes I've had it where they tell me to do something and I ask them to show me and they don't do the thing they said they were doing. And so I'll look at what they're showing me, not what they're telling me.
Yeah, because some people have, and Bob, you are probably the closest person to that. Some people say they're doing a thing while they're showing you how to do a thing. And then the description they give you is not the same thing as the demonstration they give you.
Especially with people who are really good at something. They tend to skip steps because they forget how much is muscle memory. They forget that I've done thousands and thousands of these drawings and I no longer need to think about step 1, 2, 3, 4. I skip to step 5 and then I skip to step 20 and you're just like, what? And then when they tell you like, okay, start with step 1, which is step 5, and then step 2 is step 20. It's like, what? No. It's very difficult. So I try and not, I guess that's the thing. I don't believe them, but in my head, I don't believe them. I don't make that known to them that, no, I don't really buy this.
Because you dissociate. It's still a mental strategy. Whereas for me, the way I work best is when I have full use of my brain. Because if I don't understand something and I'm letting that go, what happens is the misunderstandings or the lack of understanding piles up and I have less and less and less information to work with. However, when I am fully engaged in a conversation, in a, all right, this is a process, this is not necessarily a debate if I don't know. However, if I can get all the angles that I'm missing of a topic, I am much more able to work with it and make it my own and advance and go further and go further.
Yeah, I see, even when you say it, I see where I would have problems with that. Because I feel like, first of all, you're again, a bad word, but you're not being obedient to the instruction of the master or whatever. And you're not giving them the benefit of the doubt that, let me just try it without using my questioning and see what happens. Like if I am a robot and someone just is inputting commands and I just have to follow exactly what they say, what happens? kind of like if you follow a recipe and it's just let me do it exactly as the recipe says and just see
I'm terrible
what
at
happens.
recipes.
And then if it screws up, at least it's like, okay, I did it exactly as this says. So now I can sort of, okay, where did I go wrong?
Yeah, like the pancakes.
Yeah, so the thing is, your way does work better for a lot of things.
I
will
am
admit to
terrible.
that.
I am terrible with following recipes. Like, I read the recipe kind of like how I would read a story. Oh, this is the story of this pie or this whatever. And then I'll interpret it myself. And then usually it ends up being a thing.
Yeah.
Whether good or bad or whatever. However, your method...
Yeah, so my method does yield bad results. However, I do learn from you. So, what I did learn is, okay, cook it until it smells good.
Yeah, but you did not learn obediently, according to your own thinking.
No, I did obey the recipe.
I did.
I obeyed the recipe, and then I saw this led to complete disaster.
Many times.
No, it wasn't many times. It was a few times. It was probably twice. Twice, right? One time I made bread.
You made cake. You put the cake in pancake.
Okay, so one time... All right, fair enough. However, I will change my ways. I will learn from it.
Yeah, but from me, you didn't learn obediently. You were like, no, I'm gonna...
No, because your way was... Okay, first of all, how can I follow your way when it's so... Just
intuitive.
do what feels right?
Yeah, it's very intuitive.
I have to know what about the feel... What in the feeling is right.
Yeah, and this is the thing, because a lot of people I've seen are very dissociated from their body awareness. Like... And Bob.
Prime example right here.
Yeah. Like, oh, when you hear something, you don't really know, you can't really pinpoint where it's coming from or what it is or what it means. When you smell something, you don't know how close it is. Like, oh, is it really close? Should I move now? Or how fast should you be with the rest of your preparations? Whereas for me, I'm pretty, I guess because I grew up in the countryside, I'm pretty aware of just the flow of things, not necessarily... blow by blow, a verbal blow by blow of what's going on and how to do it. Yeah. But more like, oh yeah, you flip it and you move like this and you put this thing in and then it's about this temperature and you take it out of the freezer and then...
Yeah, and that's very impressive. Your ability to just understand these things. Like, I should probably bring it up just because it's a cool story. But in town, we were walking around town, just walking, because we walk around town, because, you know, what else is there to do? You gotta get some exercise. And outside of a drugstore, there was this, what appeared to be a dog sitting down. But I looked at it and it's like, that's not a dog. It's too, like, it looked big. The legs were closer together. The eyes were close together. It looked too cool to be a dog. Yeah, and something inside me is
fancy.
Like, that's a wolf. And then I was like, that's a wolf.
The caveman inside you.
Yeah, something primitive was like, that's a wolf. And then I was looking at it, and then it's like, yeah, that's a wolf. And Flavia walks up to it.
Yeah, because it was just tied to a post.
It was just tied to a post outside of a drugstore in the back. And then as she's walking towards it, she's walking slowly, and then the wolf sits down, and then the wolf just starts licking her hand, and it's fine. It looked like content.
Yeah, it was petting it and talking to it.
Meanwhile, Bob and I are far, far away. And just, whoa.
I don't think that's a dog.
Yeah. Anyway, and then the owner came out, and Flavia moved away, and the wolf got quite agitated once the owner came out. But the owner was like, oh, stay away from that. I was like, what is that? And then he's like, oh, it's a wolf. It's a wolf. It's an asshole, though. It's a biter. Stay away from it. Yeah, people can't get close to it. And Flavia was trying to say, like, oh, no, I got... Oh, yeah, you can get close, but you can't get too close because it'll bite you. And this has happened a bunch of times with Flavia, where she gets along with animals really well, and she understands them really well, but other people don't really get that. And so they will try and caution her, like, "Don't, no, watch out, deer are dangerous. They're gonna hit you in the head with a hoof or whatever." Mind you, you have been hit in the head. So.
Yes, but not by deer.
By horses.
By a horse, yeah. But I was like 5 or 6 and I didn't know things back then. I didn't know as much.
Yeah.
And I learned.
So I do agree that your methodology for
quote unquote methodology or lack thereof.
Your instincts are much better. I agree.
I think instinct is better. I think most people have instinct, but it's very under many layers of breaking it down, unlearning. No, you can't do this. This is dangerous. Don't touch this. Don't, like, overprotective, overzealous adults telling the kids, no, you shouldn't do this. No, don't go there, because they're scared, because they're, I don't know.
Yeah.
Very catastrophic thinking.
But it also does come with a degree of experience, like, because instinct doesn't. Well, I suppose it comes. You have some. There is 2 types.
Yeah.
Like, there's a type that you've done it so many times that you just know what's right.
Yeah.
Because you've done it wrong.
Yeah. You know what wrong feels like. You know how to stay away from it.
I guess with visual people, and you can correct me if I'm miscategorizing you, because you're pretty much my poster child for visual and adept visual person. But for me anyway, when I'm drawing a line, because I lack visualization, I don't really imagine the line on the page. But what happens is, because I've drawn so many hundreds of thousands of lines, my brain kind of can anticipate, okay, this line was wrong, this line was wrong, this, like, it can almost go through all the possibilities of what the wrong steps are, and then the remaining one is the right one. And so I have a tightness for every wrong move I could possibly make. Before I make the line, it's like there's a tightness, and then a no longer tightness, and then tightness, and then that no longer tight is where I put the line. And it sounds like there's a lot of steps, but when you're actually doing it, it happens very quickly. You've just got a sense of, like, there are times where I want to put a line down, and then my muscles will tighten, and it's like, oh, if I put this down here, I'm going to screw it up, because I've screwed it up before at this point. And then I can, okay, don't put it there, and put it there. And, oh yeah, that's right. That was the right answer. And had I put it in the initial place, I would have screwed up, but that's only because I've done it so many times, which is why I really harp on mileage. Because knowledge, like, just working off theory, it's something, but it's kind of slow and tiring. But working off intuition seems pretty easy.
I think it's because it's such a primordial mechanism. Like, you have it since so early on that your, I don't know, your workload for it is already there. It's like, oh, yeah. You've learned intuitively as a child. Everything you knew, you learned intuitively before you developed your other mechanisms for theorizing and for method and for whatever. Because you didn't have those structures in your mind yet.
Yeah, and if you consider how fast babies learn how to do things compared to when they're adults and trying to do the same thing through theory, or learning a language. Oh, it's going to take me this long to become fluent, where a child can do it quite a lot sooner. It does feel like using intuition is the way to go in terms of real high levels.
Yeah, I feel like you can always aid it with analysis and synthesis and everything else, but the driving force would be intuitive, would be your biggest, I don't know, power engine.
Yeah. So then I guess what I wanted to talk about is oh wait, first, Bob, did you have anything to add to that? It's been a 2-person show right now.
Well, I don't know. You guys pretty much covered it entirely. Like, for myself, I do notice that when I try to work through analyzing things, it's very slow. Whereas if I just put in practice, it's just like, okay, my brain kind of figures it out eventually. For me, I feel as though analysis and cerebral thinking is good for giving yourself a direction. But yeah, ultimately, intuition seems to be the way to go. It seems to have the most results, and it's been the way I've been doing things for pretty much my whole life, and it seems to have pretty good results so far. So yeah, I agree with everything you two are saying.
Yeah, and when you don't use it, it has pretty terrible results.
Yeah, it does. It does. The only thing that I have to say about intuition is I'm not sure if it varies from person to person, but for myself, it's very unpredictable. Like if it feels as though, like what I notice for myself, when the intuition feels as though it's fulfilled whatever task it's been given, it will just quit on me. And then it's like anytime I try to do something again, it's gone. It's very frustrating. And in that way, I do have to learn how to compensate for it. So that's where actual practice comes in. Because for myself, my intuition, what it does a lot of the times is that I will create work that is far above my usual stuff. And it's just like, oh, I can't normally do this by myself. It will just be really above my level. But then when I try to do it again, it's just like, oh, I can't do it. And then that's when I have to realize, okay, I need to work on other things as well. I need to get good to the point where it's not just intuition that's making the decisions.
I think when you play around with intuition, you get the benefits of how a child would learn, but also the drawbacks. Because it's very moody, it's very prone to tantrums or to sulking and being absent and only doing what it likes and only being interested insofar as it has personal investment in it.
Yeah.
But what I think is that there's also you can cater to it. You can actually discover basically what your intuition, because as Flavia mentioned, it is like a child. So you can sort of figure out what is this child? What are their preferences? What do they like? What do they dislike? Where do they function best? What time of the day do they function the best? What does it take? What is it lacking in terms of, for instance, you could be fairly intuitive and draw, for instance, let's say you're 18. Okay. You're drawing, you can draw a lot of things like faces and stuff well. And when when you're using your intuition, you can sort of draw a better face. But maybe you always lack a sense of 3 dimensions. Mm-hmm. But then when you learn perspective, the intuition then seems to be able to use anything you've learned for itself. Mm-hmm. Oh, you learn perspective. Now I can use intuition and take everything you've learned and turn it to my own...
Yeah, incorporate it.
Use it for my own ends. And it does sound like, as we're talking about it does sound very dissociated. There's a part of your brain that you don't control, that you almost treat like an other. But at the same time, we have a decent amount of experience between us. Mm-hmm. It seems to be pretty similar when we talk about intuition in terms of, oh, is it like this for you? Oh yeah, it's kind of like this for me too.
I find it kind of funny how, because you talk about it kind of like you identify with the other structure, with the adult brain structure. But when you talk about intuition, for me, it's very hard to separate it and talk about it as an external thing. It's like, I kind of identify with that approach. I don't give it a name per se or anything or relate to it in that way, but it does feel like, oh, it's part of a thing, right? It's a conglomerate. It's like a unit. Whereas when you two talk about intuition, it seems like it's more of a separate entity that resides within your brain in a way. And especially for you, Sycra, this is something that you struggle to catch rather than something that you possess sort of innately.
Yeah, I think intuition is very much like when people talk about a muse. They talk about, I have to, finding a muse. I have to find my muse, or my muse is with me or not. And the way they describe it, where, oh, you have to find a muse, I would describe it as, I am trying to find the place where my intuition surfaces. And so to me, I think it's the same concept, muse and intuition. It's this thing that you don't quite control, but that has a lot to give if you allow it to.
Yeah. But I don't know, would you say that in music it works for you the same way that it does in art, or would you say it's different?
I would say in music, the difference between music and art is in music I don't have knowledge to fall back on. So I don't have anything except intuition. And because I don't have anything except intuition, I rely on intuition. Whereas in art, because I have so much knowledge to fall back on, and so much in terms of experience.
It sounds like it gets in your way more than you fall back on it.
Yeah, because I have experience. I have information. And all this leads to doubt. It leads to second guessing. It leads to, this person said this, but what if that person said that? And when it came to music, when I was trying to figure out things and do compositions, I had someone who could teach me, I guess, theory, and I was actually opposed to it because I thought, well, let me not do this. Because I've done this with art, and I've seen what happens with art. I've seen how learning a lot sort of gets in the way. But I just treated it as, I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to create whatever I feel like. And in doing so, over time, it wasn't immediate, but I started to just figure out, this is how you do it. This works. This doesn't work. I didn't need all the explanations. Of course, if I was going to do this professionally, I imagine I would.
Do you? I don't know. It sounds like this sort of relates to what we were talking about before with the different styles of being a student. Because for me, when you just said, I didn't have information to fall back on, or, it leads to doubt and stuff. For me, information that I have doesn't really lead to doubt almost ever. Like, all the information I have gathered, be it in psychology or literature or art or anything else, is always on my own scaffolding. So it never makes me fearful. It makes me more, I don't know, I guess centered in a way.
Yeah.
Or more stable in my foundation.
There's a difference between how we function, because with you, information is information. And for me, information is information plus psychological problems. So...
Oh, come on. It's not like I don't have...
Yes, but my point is this. The self-doubt doesn't come in just from the information. The self-doubt mostly comes in because I feel like, well, this person who is at a certain level said this, and I, who am at a much lower level, maybe I'm wrong. It's because I value what other people say more than you do.
Yeah, that's what I was curious about. Do you think it stems from this idea that you have to submit to people who seem, or at least who either have more information than you, or at least appear confident that they have more information than you? Because that seems to be a thing that kind of digs at your own foundation, instead of sort of okay, I'll look at things as they are and see what they are and stuff, instead of adding an emotional factor of doubt, of kind of all right, let me observe this custom of submitting to a teacher and putting my own thing aside. Because I feel like when you talked about it before with learning and submitting to a teacher, when putting your own things aside, that's sort of detrimental, because it doesn't really enable you to latch on to information as quickly and as solidly, because you don't get to filter it except for at the end.
I guess, I don't know. Okay, so I could agree with you. However, I also saw positives in the way I was doing it, because what I tended to have in terms of experience with teachers is often they didn't believe in me in the beginning when they saw my ability. Mm-hmm. But as time went on, they found me to be a worthy student. Mm-hmm. And because of that, they told me more. Mm. They respected that I followed their method. They respected that I was putting in a lot of effort. Mm. They respected that I respected them. And because of that, they became much more forthcoming with information after, and some of them, like, they'll still contact me, but very rarely. But still, it's this understanding that there is an idea of, you have done the first step, which is you've, like, I've heard stories, I don't know if these are true, of masters that would make the student sit outside in the rain and then wait and wait, and if the student was out long enough, then they would come out and bestow the knowledge. And I don't think that's good. Like, I'm not saying, oh yeah, you should do that. But I feel like, personally, and maybe this is wrong, but I feel like there is some good that comes from a student who does understand humility, that does understand that I am coming to learn. You have something important to give me. And when I see students often, now some of them have reverence in a way, in terms of, oh, wow, you're so great, and let me talk about how great you are, but they don't have and therefore I have a responsibility to put in a ton of work. Like, to me, winning the teacher's heart is really putting in a shitload of work.
Agreed. I agree, but I also see the inherent fault in this, because maybe 80% of what you just explained is emotional arguments, emotional transaction, which means that you only have 20% of actual information exchange and actual experience with the information. So of course that's not going to leave you, it's going to leave you with a cheese full of holes at the end that you've built on, which is sort of solid at first glance, but when you look back at it, it's very airy, and you've gotten a lot of experience in dealing with people's emotions and placating them and making them understand that you are interested, or making sure that they understand that you are reverent towards them, and less time sort of getting the information out of them and into yourself and making yourself stronger.
I don't think so, because I don't think there was information to get out of them. What I realized is, as I listened to them, they were, as long as I did exactly what they were saying, the thing was there. Like, it was very clear. It's like those, the connect the dots. There's a bunch of dots, and they're saying, from dot 1 to dot 2, draw a line. From dot 2 to dot 3. And if I kept questioning it, this looks like nothing, this looks random, this looks like whatever.
But that's not the style of that's not how you would question a thing proactively and constructively. Because what happens is, because you submit to teachers, your studying is a sequence of other people's episodes. Kind of like, oh, they have it, they have the method. Whereas when you're involved as a student, you yourself will not be prone to doubt afterwards. Because, this person said this.
I wasn't doubtful about the things I learned.
You weren't doubtful about the things that you learned. However, you didn't build a strength in your own core.
Yes, I did.
Well, then how would you be... Oh, this
That's
person...
the surpass part of it.
That's
Submit, study, surpass.
Yes.
Because at the end...
Yes, but then if that was actually a viable method, I don't think that it would lead to further doubt. I don't know.
It doesn't. That's not what leads to doubt. What leads to doubt is when I don't have a teacher. Well, when I'm just taking people's... Like, oh, this person's better than me, and they said this. Because in terms of everything I've learned from teachers, and I mean, this is pretty much in my history, you can look at the images. Like, values took me a month to become pretty high level in values. Like the caricature thing, like, fine, I did learn how to do that pretty realistically in terms of achieving. I do have evidence of this work.
But do you think this is evidence that you could not have gotten otherwise?
I don't know. For myself, it seemed like the best and fastest way. And when I look at other people and their improvement, it's like, you're not learning as fast because you're questioning.
But you're looking at other people.
But when people do follow what I say, I see pretty rapid improvement. So the people who will do this many pages or focus on drawing, and they actually really churn it out and they do tons of work, they improve, because what I know, and I guess what my teachers, what I expected they knew, and I think they did know, is that their experience means more, like it's more important than my understanding. because I am at a certain level and I cannot understand what they're saying. From my vantage point, I cannot see far enough. And for instance, with you, when you were talking about how, oh yeah, now after a year, I get what you meant. That's kind of the thing. I bypassed that by not trying to understand it so much. Like, I wanted to understand, and that definitely was there. But I had this period of, I know I'm not going to understand for a while, so I'm going to trust. I'm going to do exactly what they say, but then I will do more. So they would tell me, okay, do this, and then whatever assignment they gave me, if it was draw 5 of this, I'd draw 10 or whatever, but I would do more so that I would understand, and I would come with more questions, but not telling them, oh, why, but rather, I did all this, and then I ran into this problem, and then because they've seen how much I've done, they'll, oh, I see where you went wrong, and because it's their method. I'm not doing my method, I'm just doing their method. They know their method well enough to fill in all the gaps, and then at the end, it's like, when you have their method down, you're not viewing it from the vantage point of a student anymore. You're viewing it from their vantage point, and it's like, now I can understand.
No,
now
I agree. I agree with this. Like, I agree with this part. The only difference that I have is in the beginning stages, and I suppose throughout most of my life, I have met or run into teachers who were able to sort of answer all my whys and get them out of the way. And then, all right, I can learn this, I can do this other thing. Because pretty much with every teacher that I've had that was teaching something I was interested in, it was always, yeah, but why are we doing this? But what purpose does this bit serve? What do we use this for? How do we use it? How do we, whatever. And once that was clear to me, I was able to get farther on than some of my classmates or just people who are learning alongside me.
Yeah, I guess it really depends on who the person is, because for me, I find that pretty... I mean, if the person really wants to know, I will explain. I'm comfortable with explaining, but there is a stage where I feel like I'm telling them to do something, and then instead of doing the thing I told them to do, they come with questions. Yeah. And it's like, did you do the thing? No, because I was thinking, I was gonna, but then I thought, I don't like
That's
that.
Super frustrating.
Yeah, it feels like you're not actually
giving it a chance.
You're not trusting the method. I guess when I sought out teachers, I always had something very, very specific to get from them. I never had I want to be an artist. I don't know if I want to be a this or a this. What can I do? It wasn't that vague. It was like, no, I want values. You have values, or you can draw the thing and make it look like the thing. I want that. Can you teach me how to draw the thing and make it look like the thing? Yeah. And then it's, okay, yes, I can do this. Okay. It was very structured. So I guess I want to move on to our further topic, which is this. Okay, so I have to put a disclaimer out. I'm super nervous about this topic, and it's because I'm afraid of retaliation. I'm afraid of hurting people's feelings. And there is this fear that I don't know what I'm talking about, and that's about to be exposed. But anyway, I'm just gonna go for it and say it anyway. But it's this. I feel like a lot of people don't take responsibility for their lives. Oh. And I run into people who... So there's this thing where I'll meet people who will say things like this. I want to be an artist. I'm 35 years old. I have 3 kids. But my dream has always been art. And can I do it? And I want to do it. And my thinking is, well, yeah, I guess. If you put in enough work, surely you can do it. And that's always sort of been my thing, because I do believe in that, and it's something I want to believe in. It sounds good. Like, yes, you can do this. But more and more, I'm encountering people who, when I learned the backstory, because at that time, when I was encountering people like this, because I was younger, I suppose, I didn't actually see, I only saw them at that point. when they're 35 and they have kids. I never saw them before that. But now, being a bit older, I have seen more of this journey. So I've seen people before they have kids, and then having kids, and then talking about, okay, now I want to do things. And what I have noticed, and again, everyone's situation is different. I understand that. I am generalizing, but I don't mean to be. I'm just curious about this. When I have met people before they had kids who weren't really working hard, or even forget kids, just I spent this much time playing video games, or I know they spent that much time playing video games. And then it was a case of, oh yeah, hey, why aren't you drawing? Oh yeah, I was gonna, but then I was playing video games. And then later they'll have oh, I'm this age. Can I be good? Can you help me? Can I? And the thing is, if I didn't know their circumstance, I would be all, yeah, oh yeah, that's sad that you've got in this situation, that you want to follow your dreams. But now I start to think of it more like, what were you doing with, what kind of decision making did you have going that you thought, okay, I haven't achieved my dreams, and now I'm going to have kids? Or, hey, I'm 20 and my parents are supporting me and I have all the time in the world, and I could spend this on really working hard because I have this golden opportunity, but I'm going to play video games. Like, I get the desire to do that, but I feel like if you do that, you surely can't say 10 years later, oh, I'm 30 and, I spent time playing video games, but now I want to get into art. It's more like, well, why? Why do you think what do you think this is? And this sounds kind of cold, but I guess because it was so hard to get, there's so much involved in becoming a professional artist that it's kind of like when you work really hard and you do a drawing and someone says, oh, you're so talented. And no, it's not just talent. Like, I really did study a lot, or I put in a lot. There's a lot of years that go into doing something. It's not just, oh, you're so talented. And so, yeah, that's my thing. What are people thinking when they if you're in this situation, aren't you considering your future? And then when you do get into a position where you've got a lot of responsibilities,
aren't you considering your past?
Yeah, it is very, very difficult. It gets much harder to do this. It's not to say you can't, but I feel like with my videos and a lot of artists, because a lot of my friends are the same way who also teach, we will talk about how talent isn't that important or perhaps even irrelevant, and you can do this. It's a very positive message, and it gets people pretty much on board. Because if you tell someone you can do this, they'll probably support you. But if you tell someone you can do this if you meet these conditions, and often the condition we've all been told is you need to be talented to be a very good artist. And I feel like this is the wrong condition. There may be some a benefit to having an aptitude in certain things. Because some people, when they say talented, it's not like, oh, talent is one thing. That comes in many forms. For instance, you could say someone who is naturally tall is more talented at playing basketball. But that's not all that goes into playing basketball. It doesn't mean anyone who's tall will be good at basketball. And there are plenty of people who are shorter than that tall person who may not be good at playing basketball. But it's that kind of thing. Being genetically predisposed to this sport, which favors those who are tall. That's what I see talent as is, maybe you see values better than the average person. Maybe you grasp color better than the average person. Maybe you're good at copying things better than the average person. Maybe this, maybe that. But it's always so you have some things in your favor, but you don't know what those are necessarily, and you don't know how far it can take you, so just do the work. But the rest does seem much more important. For instance, not are you talented, and that's why you can't be a good artist, but are you dedicated? Are you driven? Will you sacrifice things you otherwise would want to do in order to get something that means more to you in the long run? Maybe not in the short run. Maybe it's like, no, I'd really rather play, I don't know, League of Legends or Overwatch or whatever. Right now, I'd really rather do that. But I don't want to be 10 years down the line thinking, yeah, I wanted to be an artist and that was my dream and I never really pursued it because I was kind of into video games at the time, and now I want to do that. But also I have a full-time job. My wife's expecting her 4th kid. Like all these additional things. So I feel like there are some things you should ask yourself. Do I have this? First of all, are you dedicated? Are you someone who will stick to something? Or are you sort of like, I get into it for a while and then I lose interest and then I go do something else? Are you someone who, in the case of becoming a freelancer or an independent artist, this matters much more, but are you business-minded? Are you someone who understands about marketing, or are you someone who is able to learn about that? Like, are you okay with, I'm going to have to learn a bit about the business side of things and self-promotion? Are you someone who will overcome defeat and failure over and over again? Or are you someone who, if someone tells you, you're not cut out for it, you will quit? Because if you're that type of person, you're probably not going to make it anyway, no matter how talented you are. Because then it's just a numbers game. You're just waiting for that one person to say, no, you're not good. You're never going to be good. And then they're going to, knock you off the horse and you're not going to get back up on that horse. You're just going to, oh yeah, that was the time when I quit, when someone else told me I'm not good. But I don't want this to be, very depressing speech. So I would say, if you are at a stage where you have time, you're living with your parents and you have the time, really make use of it. Like this can help so much. Or at least don't torture yourself if you're not the person who wants, like if I'm not that professional person. Like for me, for instance, I'm very lazy. I like being lazy. I like comfortable things. I don't really like challenging myself. But I also know I will do things I don't like because it matters more to me that I will get good. So I feel in that there is a workaround. Yes, I'm lazy, but I will work hard if I need to until I don't need to anymore. And part of my laziness I use to fuel my thing. For instance, I am bored when I work on a piece for too long. So my thing is, I have to get so fast that I can finish a piece before I get bored. And that might take a few years, but I will do that. And to that end, I will give myself time. For instance, for me, time means I can't live in a house that costs too much because the mortgage rates will be too high. Or I can't live in a city where the rent costs are too high. Because if I do, it means I will need to make a lot of money. And if I need to make a lot of money, I know I'm not going to have much time, I'm not going to have much energy, and I'm going to be more than likely to give up. But putting myself in a place where it's okay, you're living off the bare essentials, but you do have time. Because you're not beholden to, I need to make tons of money, I can now focus on what do I really want to do? And I'm making enough money to deal with things. I'm working enough that I still get to explore. But it is a decision. Okay, someone else has to talk now because I feel like I'm talking too much.
I think that a lot of the sense of priorities has gotten scrambled with people, especially lately. It's like so many stories are, in some form or another, this rat race kind of thing. Oh, I need to get good in 2 years. I need to do this. I need to do whatever. I have this job. I don't have time. I don't, whatever. And it seems like it stems from either social pressure of living in a city, having a certain lifestyle, having a certain maintenance cost of your daily life, but not really an individual need for those objects or that lifestyle or those social contexts or anything, which is why it sort of falls flat on its face, because there's nothing personal to sustain it. If it's only social pressure that's keeping you doing a thing over and over and over, day in and day out, hour after hour, you're gonna collapse because you are getting nothing out of it other than keeping fear at bay. Whereas if you set your pride aside in a way, and downsize and sort of, all right, I'm not, because the way I think about it, when you were mentioning video games, and I hadn't thought about this until now, but all these people who talk to us about, playing so much time, like playing games so much for so many hours and stuff. I played games when I was young, but I don't remember binging games really until after maybe I was 19 or something. Like, I played games, but an hour here, an hour there, sort of in between bouts of studying or doing stuff or being, like, reading or going to the theater or stuff like that. And I'd never really missed it. Like, I like video games. I like playing video games. I like the stories. I like the immersion and everything. But I never really miss it. And there were a few years where I was kind of binging things, but it was before I started my WoW excursion. It was just right before exams in university, and it was always during exam sessions. Because I got very, very stressed out before an exam, I would manage my stress by distracting myself for about a week with a video game right before the exam, and then take the day before the exam to, like, cram it, and because that's how I study best. Just to sort of keep my mind off the anxiety, because I knew I couldn't handle it and it would wear me down and I would do poorly. But other than that, I don't really get the proper place in it. And the way I think about it now is every time you're binging a video game, every day you're wasting playing games is a day in your future that you're sacrificing, or more days in your future that you're sacrificing, because it's investment in being a consumer of goods. But if your dream is to be a creator, what does that have to do with anything? What does that have, what is enriching you in this? Because if you're using it to alleviate anxiety, then you have to give yourself a timer for that. Because, I don't know, for myself, I always knew why I was doing it. And after the exam, I wouldn't play games. I wouldn't resume my game. I would just leave it for the next time I felt anxious. And I sort of had like a deadline for it. It had a very specific purpose.
I can, just speaking for myself, when I was a kid, growing up, I didn't have video games until I think grade 6 is when I got a Super Nintendo. And honestly, the only thing that made it so I didn't play video games was school and I guess my parents finding out, because I had to play when they weren't aware that I was playing as much as I could. But really, until high school and even until my teens, if given the chance, I think I would have spent all my time in video games. Because it had for me something very important. First of all, I liked the music. I liked the art for a lot of them. I liked... most of all, what I liked is that I was in control of something. For instance, if I want to get stronger, I just kill this many enemies and I gain a level and I am now stronger. It was very much this feeling of this actually works, where in real life, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like, because when I drew, it felt like hit or miss. I could draw a nice picture, and then I could try again, and then draw a bad picture. That doesn't happen in video games. You don't suddenly go from level 10 to level 5. It's level 10, 11, 12, 13. It's very sequential. It's very orderly. There is a sense of control and an escape, of course, because my life pretty much sucked. So I would much rather be in this world that this game produces than in the real world. And in this world, I know I can get stronger. I know I can get better. And in the real world, it felt random. It felt like I don't know. And it wasn't until I finally learned that it takes work to get better, because I didn't understand this. Like, it takes practice to get better.
Yeah.
People would say practice makes perfect, but I didn't know what that meant.
If they just say it, of course.
Yeah, because, I don't know, I didn't know anything. So my thing then became, oh, all right, well then, if that's true, I have to test it. I have to give myself a certain amount of time, like years, to do this and invest. And then it was a case of, fine, I want to play video games, but if I do, I'm screwing up this test. So I guess when it comes to things like that, I have a lot of discipline.
Yeah, but it makes a lot of sense, because the way you grew up, your environment didn't, like, your education system didn't really offer you opportunities for growth. Because the way I think about it is like, oh, you have a sense of control and you level up, and if you kill this mob, you get stronger and whatever. It's like, for me, I got those feelings of, oh, I solved this math problem, or I got this theorem, or I figured out this formula, or like, there was a lot more access to things that actually do make you stronger. Or I figured out how to build this thing, or I figured out how this plant works, or...
Yeah. I think for me, it really wasn't that anything was challenging in the beginning of my academic life. It was always, I got the things they were saying.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And then that was, like, I understood it too fast. The homework I finished in class. So there's not this, oh, I have to work. It's like, work at what? I have to study. Study what?
Yeah.
It was really, everything comes so easily to me that there is no challenge.
Yeah.
And then, for instance, in math, I didn't like math, but I was good at math because in England, so I went from England to Canada. In England, we were already learning division, and then I came to Canada and it was grade 2, and no one even knew addition. It was really like, oh, this is very backward. So it was such a breeze going through. There is no challenge. And then they thought, oh, you're good at math. You must like math. So they put me in this math special program. And basically, it was just, you go to the library and you take any book you want about math or these difficult math problems, and you do as much or as little as you want. So all I did was draw. I didn't do any math. I was with this other kid who was like he was also the gifted at math person, and then he was doing the problems and like, oh yeah, how far did you get in this problem? I'm like, I'm not. We don't have to do it. They said you can do as much or as little as you want. I don't want to do math. I don't like math. I'd rather draw.
Again, so, you took the emotional argument out of that situation,
because it wasn't challenging or rewarding. It was just easy. And there's something that is very bad about things just being easy.
Yeah.
It's very, if you want this experience and you haven't had it, just play a game with cheat codes. It gets boring really fast.
Oh,
it gets very like, what? Whereas if you don't, and there's a boss you can't beat and it takes forever and you finally beat them, there's such a feeling of satisfaction and, yeah, I killed you. Take that.
Yeah, I think it really shows how systems in our lives are sort of beginning or continuing to be designed to lower and lower and lower the level of stimulation and of challenge. And the way to get stimulation is, you go to to the dance floor and you're blasted with light and you're blasted with sound, or you're in a video game, you're like bombarded with images and numbers and stuff. But all those things were supposed to be tools that you use to grow as an individual. Oh, you understand the world around you, therefore you get stronger. You get wiser, you get more intelligent, more attuned to things. Instead of, I know how to clear this raid or whatever. Instead of, I know how to, I don't know, I guess it sounds stupid, but I know how to grow my own vegetables. Because, as I have stated before, the food around us is turning shittier and shittier and shittier. And it's very, very hard to rescue some semblance of vegetables and a life that is I don't know, tasty.
Yeah, but now you're growing vegetables and they're so far so good.
So far, so good, yeah.
Yeah. I guess it's kind of like, okay, so in a video game, you hack and slash and you kill a certain amount of things and then you get the big, whatever, level up and all the sparkles and the, and that's one thing. And then you get a high off that, which quickly dissolves. Whereas outside of that, let's say you were climbing a mountain, it's really hard and you can't get the whole way up first, and okay, and then the next time, but then you finally climb, you get to the summit, and the view is your level up. That's the sparkle is the sparkle of the sun, or the light hitting.
Yeah, but that's the thing is, that's not all you get from it.
Yeah, because in that, you built your physical stamina or your endurance, and there's a lot of what you got in growing as a person. You are now a stronger person, whereas in video games, I guess on some level, I imagine there are benefits. I'm sure there are benefits, especially with first-person shooters or strategy games in terms of think quickly.
Yeah.
I'm sure with first-person shooters, it's a lot about hand-eye coordination.
Yeah. Reaction time
and stuff like that.
With MMOs, it's social, social management and stuff.
And also strategy if you are someone who strategizes. But with the mountain thing, it's okay. You get a longer period of the high, and you actually get high in terms of altitude. And then you grow as a person. And with art, it's kind of the same thing. As you draw more and more, it's, I can take some of what's in my head and put it on the page. It might not be great, it might not be perfect, but it's a lot closer than I used to be able to do. And I can explain something to someone, and I have this skill, and that's actually, it doesn't disappear when I turn off the game. It's not temporary. And it's much more rewarding, I would say.
But I think that pretty much if you're a teenager and you're spending the majority of your waking hours, I don't know, devoted to video games or devoted to just distractions and stuff, you're really just looking at the short term. And I get it that in a way you are not yet equipped, or you're becoming less equipped to think about the long term. But if you just think about even the present you, if in the back of your head, your dream, your pull, your I don't know, intuition takes you to becoming an artist or becoming a doctor or something, like every hour that you're letting pass you, that you're taking away from that person who is going to be you, 5 years from now or 10 years from now, is very, very hard to get back. You're not going to get it back. And on top of that, you're going to deal with the guilt over the time that, when you do sort of come to your senses in your mid-20s and you're beginning to realize that, damn, I'm kind of screwed. I've wasted my teens, and now I need to worry about money. I need to worry about feeding myself, clothing myself, buying my own toilet paper, doing my own laundry, and everything else. And video games don't really get me that. And I kind of wanted to be an artist. Where does that leave you?
Yeah. But at the same time, I would actually feel like I would respect someone just as much if they told me, you know what, when I was young, I did think about it. I thought, how much do I like art? I like art a little bit. I mean, I do like art, but I like video games a lot more. And I also kind of like making money. And I kind of like, status. I like wearing nice clothes. So I am pursuing art as a hobby. I just do it on the side. I do it for me. I thought, it would be cool to be a concept artist, or it would be cool but I don't have it in me, and I'd rather just do this. I would be okay with that. It's like, okay, You know who you are, you know your limitations, and you're not going to live in regret. Because that's the thing. It's sort of not knowing yourself, and then torturing yourself, because I think that's really sad if you deep down with self-knowledge could have deciphered that I am not cut out to be an artist. This isn't what I really want to do. And yet I'm going to beat myself up every day and tell myself, oh, you loser, you're still, oh, you could have been an artist. Oh, you're not working. Oh, you could have been this. Oh, now you're just going to go to work. Why aren't you? You could be working in.
Yeah, but you know what this
better.
preserves? You know what this preserves? It preserves the you could have been, which is what's important, which is what holds your ego together. Oh, you could have been, you could have been, you could have been, because you can't admit to yourself that, no, realistically speaking, I blew it.
Maybe not even blow it, but just, I don't care about it that much.
Yeah.
I care about it,
but
not enough to...
How hard is it to admit, I don't care about many things that much. I am despondent. I am, like, what does that leave you with?
Yeah, but I still think it's gotta be better than years and years of self-flagellation, because after that point, after you admit, if this is you, and you're like, I'm not the artist that I admire, I'm just a guy who likes to draw. Isn't that a relief after, if you just realize that, in terms of, because you no longer have to live in this, I have to be this thing that I'm not. You now get to be yourself. And I feel like when you can be yourself, no matter whether it's what you want or not, it's got to be better. Like if you were gay and you're living as a straight person, it's got to be harder than just being gay. And
depends. I think it really depends on the, like with a gay thing, clearly it depends on your environment and how hard is it if you're coming out of the closet to deal with discrimination, with like, I don't know, whatever persecution you might encounter. So I don't know. But I think on the other hand, clearly it's not as hard for this many people to keep choosing to preserve that heightened ego. Because I think if you live for so long with an inflated sense of ego, with like everything hinging upon, I am this artist that I admire, I am gonna be this, I've got this potential, this becomes a crutch. This becomes something you rely on. And when you deflate that to its realistic proportions, you're gonna experience a fall. You're gonna experience depression. You're gonna experience disillusionment with yourself. And I think this is what most people are not equipped to handle anymore. Realistic expectations from themselves, because they've not been brought up encountering realistic expectations. You can do anything you want to do. You can be anything you want to be. You can be a princess in a castle.
But there's always, like, okay, so let's say it's not, I just want to be a hobbyist. Maybe you do want to be a professional. But you also know, you know what? I'm not that dedicated to be the super technical artist. But I do like doing these drawings that, I mean, they're okay. They're not the super awesome things that I need, but I have a bunch of social skills. I like talking to people. I can market things. I can sell myself. This isn't hard for me. Then you don't need that much. You could actually change your goal from, I want to be the head concept artist at Blizzard, and instead, or lead concept artist, whatever, and instead, I'm going to be this local artist who makes these things and gets to talk to people a lot, and I'm going to sell at conventions, I'm going to go out, or I'm going to, do a lot with what I do have, instead of holding myself to a standard which I don't have.
But see, this is the thing. This requires one of two things, if not both. This requires pragmatism and wisdom, which are both things that you don't get from a youth spent alone or sort of isolated in video games, or not dealing with the real world, not dealing with realistic expectations, not dealing with realism, period. It's like, where are you going to get these skills? Because these are skills that you're not born with as a child. This is what sort of adults around you are supposed to be there for, to teach you wisdom and pragmatism and realism and a down-to-earth approach, and sort of understanding where your strengths lie and where your weaknesses lie, and that it's not a crime to have weaknesses. But from everything that I've heard, and from everything that I've heard you hear, it's a very rare bird to have these traits. Sort of like it's becoming more and more weird to come across a person who knows about what their level is and about how much they're gonna get. It's like they're all shooting for the moon because they have no benchmarks, no real benchmarks. It's just anyone can post anything on Facebook. Anyone can say pretty much anything on Instagram. Anyone can, I don't know, put forth and give back any sort of information. There's no merit. There's no...
And what I realize, and this isn't from any artist I know, but just from dealing with my family in a way, but there's this thing where sometimes I will hear the dream. And it's like, oh, I want to be able to travel and I want to be able to do this and do that. And that's it. I just really want a peaceful life, an easy life. I don't need this big house, or I don't need... And it's, with your finances, you could easily do this. You could, your retirement age, you could sell your house for a lot of money because you're in a high-priced area and downsize to a different town and have plenty of money, have enough to live off the interest. You buy a smaller house because you say you don't need this big house, and you could then get this dream you have. Like, oh, you will be able to travel, you will be able to do this, you will be able to do that, because that's pretty much what we're doing right now, living in a small town. It's like, okay, fine. You say you want to do your own thing, you don't want to work for a company, and you only make this much money, fine, move to where you can. But then I bring that up, oh, but then I don't get the social life I want. Oh, but then it's like, you've got to be willing to sacrifice. Yeah. You can't have dreams without, and be someone who's taken seriously. You can't have dreams without also knowing what are you willing to sacrifice. Yeah. And for a person who loves video games, but also wants to be a professional artist, it's like, are you willing to kill the video games? Are you willing to sacrifice the thing that you love so dearly for this thing that you love even more? And I feel there are a lot of people who don't make this choice or hide behind, oh, but I can't because I care about that. But yeah, but you can't have both. I don't know if you really can't have both. At least not right away.
Yeah, I feel like there has to be measure. Yeah, I think there has to be
trade-off.
First of all, a measure, and then the thing that I don't understand is how come when people talk about like, oh, I like art, but I play video games all day and everything. It's like, don't you get a high off of doing art? And I think, again, this is a point where expectations come into play because... I
didn't. For many, many years, I didn't get
I always did. I always got a high, not necessarily from the result of drawing, but the act of drawing, which is why I kept drawing, even though I wasn't... Like, it's therapeutic for me, which is why I was always drawing in class and whatever. In high anxiety situations, I would always be drawing. And I still do that. Because it sort of soothes me. And what I don't understand is, isn't there pleasure in doing this? Like, if you say you love a thing, do you love the thing? Because then you would get a bonus off of doing it. Or do you love the idea of the aftermath of somebody you've seen who did it and then you like that end position? Be it a famous concert pianist or lead concept artist at Blizzard or whatever. Oh, you like how people look at them. You like how, I don't know, the emperor of China was revered by his, whatever, court people or whoever. It's like, you like that status, but you don't like the process. You wouldn't really like to be in that position, to have to meet diplomats, to have to wear the fancy clothes or whatever they were wearing. But you want status. It's like, it's really hard to admit for people that they want status, that they want fancy clothes, that because it's seen as, oh, this is not cool. It's like, no, it's too shallow. It's like, but if you are shallow, what shame is there in being upfront about like owning your own personality?
Yeah, it's like it feels very cultural, that cultures determine, or society determines, what values we hold up high and which we don't. Because for most of history, merchants were not looked at positively. Yeah. Being a merchant wasn't good. Being a scholar was good. Being a merchant was pretty low on the totem pole. Being a laborer was even worse. Being an aristocrat or noble or something was pretty high. Being a warrior was very respected. But being a merchant, no, not really. But in America, it very much is. Oh, yeah. A mercantile saying, I want to get rich is, yay, good. And saying something like, I wish to devote my life to spiritual matters and becoming and knowing, I don't know, the universe or whatever. I want to deal with philosophy. It's okay, so you're not going to be rich. What?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
You're a dropout. You're a what is
You're
it?
gonna-
Liberal arts major.
Yeah.
Like you're sort of not. But that's, again, it depends where you say that.
Even with art, it's like, oh, so you're what? I'm gonna be a fine artist. So what? You're gonna be a starving artist and stuff. It's always this side to it, which sort of crushes people.
Yeah.
Who would otherwise, oh, I like aesthetic things. I like pretty things. I like beauty. I like emotion. I like painting. I like whatever. Yeah, but what? How are you gonna make money with that?
But you don't really need to admit it to everyone as much as you need to admit it to yourself.
Yeah,
Because
I agree.
I've seen a lot of people who deep down, they know they really just want fame and fortune. And they will do whatever it takes to get it. And they do. I'm surprised by how many people who they know. There's no doubt. There's no two ways about it. It's not, oh, but I really want to be a fine artist, but I also want to make money. But it's like, no, I want to be rich. I want to have things. And I want that a lot.
Yeah.
They tend to get it. They tend to achieve where it's like, oh yeah, you're rich. And it's not my thing, but at least I can respect that you have a goal, you understand yourself, and you are pursuing this.
Yeah. Like, I myself got a lot of shit from my parents because I held back on telling them what I was going to study for university for as much as I could. But in the last year of high school, I sort of had to, because just of like organizing things and whatever. So when they heard that I was going to be a psychologist, they gave me so much shit. Like, oh, you're not even going to study a real thing? How are you going to survive? You know, we're not going to help you. We're not going to pay for your school. We're not going to help you with your lodging or anything. You're going to have to make it. You're not going to make it. You're just going to end up selling bus tickets.
Yeah.
So even with a thing such as a psychologist or a counselor or whatever, there was still this idea that money first and then calling or an interest or whatever. No real faith in dedication or passion or interest or ability. Just, yeah, but have you thought about how you're going to do this? I think a lot of parents or adults don't trust their children with anything. Therefore, they kind of use it as a justification for not listening to their children, not enabling not getting to know their kids. It's like, yeah, but how are you going to do this? Yeah, but you're just a loser. You're stupid. You're a failure. You're not even this. You're not even that. But they don't get to know what their kid wants to do, so they could encourage that or make them better or help them or...
I don't think you need... Because for me, I didn't get help or encouragement. But what I did have that I'm learning to value is because my parents really didn't do anything good for me. They also didn't do much harm. I mean, they did a lot of harm in the beginning. But
they didn't do much harm.
Okay,
yeah.
Bob, stop interrupting. All you've been doing is talking this time. Like, give someone else a chance to talk. Anyway, so they kind of just didn't interfere with what I was doing. Because there was no expectation of I would get help.
But that's the thing. You think about it as if they didn't interfere, but what they did interfere is with your sense of self, with your sense of...
So like, psychologically, they trashed
But
me.
that's super important.
Still, I came out with at least what I feel is better than people who had parents who were very, you must do this, you must do that, who were very controlling in their lives. I think it's better to do nothing than to tell someone that they are this or aren't. It's like, just you don't have to tell someone what they are. Think about it. You didn't come out with nothing. You came out with ideas like genius or like unrealistic expectations, unrealistic things, because your parents did not live in reality. They are not rooted. They are not people who are rooted in reality. They don't know what's what. It's like that. My cautionary thing to whoever is listening to this and who does have kids is get to know your kids.
It's like, don't just push them into things that don't think for them so much, because they do have a developing brain. They do have autonomy. It's much better to make stronger young adults than to make crippled teenagers who will know nothing about life by the time they're sort of kicked out into the world. And because you as a parent will be, ridden with guilt and sort of protective and stuff. It's like, what are you teaching them to be?
I think that's all well and good, but most people are not in that position. I think a lot of parents are not ready to be parents.
Agreed, but if you have become a parent...
Yes, but consider there are other parents in the room. There are the parents, and then there's media. There's so much more that's bombarding the children with do this, do that. Peer pressure, fine, whatever, that's always going to be there, that's always been there. But when it was just pure peer pressure because, we're in this town and this is what we think is cool and whatever, that's one thing. But when it's this orchestrated plan to brainwash, we will raise people who associate this restaurant with this feeling.
I agree, and then I really disagree. Because the stories you told me about sort of like less media and whatever, isn't that story about school and how their tastes changed and everything, how everybody grew up and then suddenly you had to wear a certain type of pants with a certain type of brand on them or whatever. It's like, those things are really bad, but they're not overwhelming. And even today, it's like, you don't have to do this. You don't have to raise your kids to associate a certain... Like, parents have so much in their kids' lives, so much authority, so much power to influence that they don't take advantage of necessarily, because either they're too distracted themselves, they're too demotivated, they're thinking about their long lost dreams.
I think they just don't know it. It's kind of like you,
which is why I'm talking about it.
I don't think you're teaching them by doing that. It's kind of the same as you saying, why don't they have good vegetables here? They don't know how to grow anything. Okay, are you gonna go out and, I don't know, become this person who I will speak out on this and I will spend the next 10 or 20 years of my life becoming the person who talks about this is how to grow things and I'm going to go by person by person, because you have to be willing to put it in.
Think about it.
Or else...
Okay, think about, you have to use, what you say is you're describing a person who is giving up their life to go door to door and teach people how to do a thing. However, that is putting the people in a very infantile position. They need to be spoon-fed. However, like, all the information about growing things and whatnot, it's like, it's out there.
Yes, but
you just have to look for it.
That's assuming your audience are capable of receiving your message. If they're not, then you have to make your megaphone loud enough that they have no choice but to hear your message, or that it requires less work. I feel like to do otherwise is just not paying attention to reality. Maybe people are better, and when I say people, I just mean average, because obviously, you listener are different. But
I think in most things, it does come down to instinct. I think humans do have parental instincts that they themselves don't really listen to much. It's like, when you were a kid, did you want or did you not want to be listened to? It's like, think about your own childhood and think about what it was like for you as a kid. And think about your kid is also a person who thinks probably very similarly to how you were thinking at that age. I think the way I see it and my former classmates from university who have kids, they sort of thought of their kids as not really sentient, which I thought was really, really bad. It's like, they are hyper sentient. They're very in their formative years, they're very, very sponges. It's like, everything you are very under scrutiny as a parent, because they will learn things from you. Whether or not you're actively teaching them, they will learn things from you.
Yeah. What do you have to say about all this, Bob?
I agree.
I agree.
I was just thinking, again, probably going to get flack for this, but the voice that came in my head as you were talking was, oh, but you don't have children. You don't know what it's like. And then my voice was, yes, but I remember when you didn't, and I told you to wear a condom.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, when did you decide you... Because we could have kids,
Yeah.
and then we'd have that right of, oh, no, everything slips off us because...
But yeah, see, even this attitude is depersonalizing your kid and sort of putting your relationship with your kid, whether it's accidental or not, it's putting it sort of on the, not even on the back burner, but on the, I don't know, the bottom of the list somewhere. It's like your kid is not just an excuse for you to not pursue things or not do things. It's like, yes, it's a hassle, it's a responsibility, it's a great deal of things, but it's not just that, it's a person.
Yeah, I really feel like people should not have kids until they've achieved their dreams.
Yeah.
Or
until they're well, like, I feel like
yeah, achieved as in whatever, like, okay, so
you know where
want
the
to be a
kid fits
professional
in.
artist and you want to be the best artist. Fine, you're a professional artist, you're not the best artist, but you're at least a professional artist and you can support yourself and you can support having kids.
Yeah.
Fine, then have kids.
like,
but this idea of, I have a bunch of dreams, and one of them is to be a parent, and one of them is to be a professional artist. Like, okay, so I'm working on the professional artist thing. It's not really going anywhere because I slack off a lot, and I play video games, or I hang out with my friends a lot, or I spend time binging Netflix or whatever. So I'm going to have a kid because, like, that's also my dream, to be a parent. And I didn't want to be an old parent. It's like, well, what are you sacrificing? And in this, whenever children are involved, it's always a life you're sacrificing.
Yeah.
What goes on the altar? Is it your PS4 or is it this child? and I don't know. But it feels like, but I can't talk about this. But at the same time, I feel like, but I'm sacrificing as well. I mean, I wouldn't mind certain things, like, oh yeah, having a kid, I guess. Yeah, I guess I have that instinct, but there's also, but I'm not good enough. I'm not a strong enough person
and not
to have that.
Not knowing where your kid would fit into your life.
Yeah.
Because I feel like any small or big like a kid is probably the biggest responsibility you can take. By far. But even if you think on a smaller scale, because when I got Pisiko, my cat, I sort of knew that I can't, like, I love animals. I like cats. I like animals. I like their company. But I knew that I couldn't have more than one cat. And even so, it was very, very, like, I knew, because of my lifestyle and moving around and everything, it's very hard to have a cat. And it was really hard. Like, if I came across another cat, I knew I would have to give it up because I had no place for it. I had no room. I had no, like, I can't carry 2 cats in 2 cat carriers, one on each shoulder every time I travel. So a lot of this goes into the sacrifice pile. It's like, I can't really get the company of 2 cats or a crowd of cats or, I don't know, 40 cats. Cats and deer and wolves and squirrels and marmots and everything. But what I do have is the one cat that I have, I am able to give it the life that I think is okay to give it. It gets fed, it gets comfortable, it gets attention, it gets pretty much everything that I can give. And I feel like with a child, you also have to consider what a kid needs from its parent. Yeah. You can't just...
and it's not just money or I can afford daycare. It's what are you contributing as a person? How much wisdom do you have? How much integrity? How much of how successful are you as a person? And then you can replicate yourself. And
the story that my grandparents raised my mom.
Yeah.
So that's pretty bad. However, I feel like the way they designed their life was very pragmatic and I did take a lot out of it. So what they told me is they got married when they were in their early 20s. And that was still under communist times. And my grandma did get pregnant a bunch of times. And at the time, it was illegal to have abortion. So she would have to sort of go through this huge process of getting a shady doctor and giving her bad chemicals and everything. But she didn't allow herself to have a child until a few years later, when they had basically they started from nothing. They had like a mud kitchen that they built with their own hands. They brought like sticks and they sort of put mud on it to make the walls and everything, and then they painted it. And
Beaver would be proud.
Yeah, Beaver would be proud. But that's pretty much. And then they bought like 2 forks, and then they bought 2 knives, and then 2 spoons, and then bowls, and like pretty much one thing at a time as they were developing. And then she was thinking about, well, I want to have a kid. I really want to have a kid. But we don't have a fridge. I really want to have a kid, but we don't have a cooker or a stove or whatever. And it was only after they went through the checklist, they actually made a checklist of things that they would need in order to raise a kid, and then had a child. I feel like that is... Okay, that's a bit extreme, and I suppose not many people who are listening to this live in those conditions, but I do think it's a good mindset of, are you able to give time to your kid, or are you going to be away all day, and then they're going to be left with school influences, friends, whoever, TV, or internet, or that alone, and no family warmth, or trust, or sort of practical things of, you know how to fry an egg. Are you going to teach your kid how to fry an egg? Are you going to teach your kid how to be independent? Are you going to teach your kid how to be self-secure? Because that is something that they primarily take from whoever's raising them.
Yeah, it's important to treat the kid as their own person, not just as whatever you want it to be.
I just got stuck on it because you were saying, oh yeah, they didn't have a fridge yet. And then I heard Bob's voice saying, like, of course he wasn't saying it, but, yeah, how would you freeze the baby? And they didn't have a stove yet. How would you cook the baby?
How would you cook the baby?
Anyway. Yeah. Pretty much. I don't know. I think when people bring up things stopping them, it's usually age. It's, oh, but I haven't gone to school and I'm 30 or I'm 40 or I'm 50 or I'm 20 or I'm 15. And really, that's one of the things that is definitely not a problem.
Yeah.
Because if that's all it was, you could take a 60-year-old person, and if that's it, it's just 60, they could be a really good artist in 10 years. Like, whatever. If, like, not saying in terms of, you know, maybe their health is bad and they've only got, you know, whatever. Let's leave cancer out of this or anything like that. But just in terms of age, yeah, you could do this.
Yeah.
It's not the age, it's everything else. It's the responsibility. A 15-year-old has usually much less responsibility than a 30-year-old, but they may have more pressure, for instance, from their parents. You have to go to school, so which school are you picking? And you say you want to be an artist, where's the money in that? And whatever, whereas a 30-year-old, I mean, usually by that age, the parents given up on you, right? But, yeah, but in just age or something, that's really not what it is. So when you think about, if you're one of these people who think, you know, I'm 28, am I too old to be a professional artist? Try not to do that. Instead think, how much determination do I have to be a professional artist? And if I have to take 10 years out of my life, how am I going to do this? If I need to give myself, like, okay, at least 10 years of development, because a professional artist is about as rare as a doctor in terms of how many people are actually able to live off their art. Maybe even more rare than a doctor. I've heard a comic book artist, to be a professional comic book artist, is about as rare as a professional NBA player. So in terms of that, if you have that understanding, then at least, you know, age isn't a limiting factor, because with athletics, age definitely is much more of a limiting factor. But how much dedication do you have? How much to sacrifice? How much how willing are you to sacrifice things? Because there are people who are old and very willing to sacrifice and then do it. You can do it. I'm not talented and I'm 50, but I'm super dedicated and I will put in the work. I don't have to worry about money. I've got things covered. It's like, you're fine. You know, by 60, I want to be a professional artist. You'll probably get there. I know exactly what I want. I know. It's like, yeah, okay, fine. But if I'm 12 and I never finish anything and I always find something else some reason, some excuse to why I didn't do it. It's like, well, you're still young. You have time to evolve, but you know.
I feel really sad when I hear people asking, "Can I do it?" instead of, "I want to do this. How do I do it?" Because it's a huge difference in terms of where you're coming from to be asking this question in the first place. Oh, I'm 27. Can I do it? It's sort of like going to a fortune teller and read my cards for me. It's like, what? What do you mean, read your cards for you? You want to do this and you're coming to this teacher for a method or tips or anything. There's no... This isn't rocket science. It's just put in the work. Can you put in the work? That's for you to answer before anything.
Yeah. Because it's all like, how, I don't know. Who are you? Like, can I do it?
Yeah, exactly.
They'll give you the wrong information.
And it's a very hard... I don't know. I feel like on the receiving end of this question, it's a very... I personally kind of get annoyed with it because it's a very tough spot to be in to have to answer this question for someone in one way or another. Oh, can I be an artist? Well, you can either tell them bullshit, which is sort of... I get angry because I don't want to have to talk bullshit or whatever. Yeah. You can either sort of tentatively gauge where they're coming from and whatever. And I get annoyed by that because it's not straightforward and it's not... The person who's asking this question isn't putting anything of themselves in. I have to pry it out of them. Like, who are you and why do you think you can't do this and why are you insecure and whatever. And rather than... I would much, much prefer if somebody came to me and said, I want to be an artist. I am shit with being motivated. I get anxious all the time because that's just actually describing the problem to a person and letting them know how you can help. It's like, how can I help you? Not, can I do it? Please live my life for me. Please tell me things that I should be telling myself.
And I'd rather they were, like, and this is maybe sad, but I'd rather they were telling me, I've got a job. I don't need to do art for a living. I just want to get better at art. It's like, oh, thank you. That's great. That's just great. But it's sad. As you said, it's sad because I do feel like I want to encourage people to do. Oh, when someone comes to me with a big dream, it's like, I have this big dream. Can I do it? There is the desire to say, of course you can do it. Yes, you can. Yeah, go for it. But the reality is, sometimes it's a case, more often than I would like, it's a case where I see the person, I see how much work they put in, and I know they can't do it. Not because of talent, not because of age, just because of work. But at the same time, I don't feel like it's my place to say, you cannot do that to anyone.
But that's a problem. Like, I really feel like this is I don't know where it started and where it started seeping into things, but I've seen this concept and this principle over and over and over again. Oh, I don't want to be the person who tells somebody, or I can't be the person. It's not my place to be the person who tells somebody they can't do it. And I really disagree with that. I feel like it's a shit position to be in, and I hate to be in it. But I feel like if somebody asks me, can I do it? And I look at them and I see, you're not doing the work. It's like, you could, but you aren't. It's like, yeah, it sucks. It really sucks, emotionally speaking, to be put in that position. It's sort of like between a rock and a hard place. You can't...
I guess I have this idealistic view that anyone can do anything if they put their mind to it.
Yeah, but are they putting... The thing is, are you putting your mind to it? And if the answer to that is no, then clearly there's a positive correlation, which means you can't do it unless you put your mind to it. It's like, oh, you can... Like, the flip side to you can do anything if you put your mind to it is... If you don't put your mind to it, you can't do shit.
Yeah. Sobering.
It's the truth, though.
What do you have to say about any of this, Bob?
I think it's good advice. I think
Yes, but what do you have to say? Not what do you think?
No, well, that's what I was going to get to. Besides the fact that I think people should be hearing about this, because I do get the feeling that even with people that are very inspiring, they say like, "Oh, I just do this and then I got better." It feels like a oversimplification. You just have to be dedicated, or you just have to be confident, or stuff like that. It feels as though it's ignoring a lot of psychological flaws within people, and it's like you're not taking into account just the current situation with the world. There's the idea of, oh, you can do anything, and people are very positive, and it's all very feel good and stuff like that. But I don't know. It's just like there's more to it. There's more to just things going on in the surface.
It's almost like a motivational speaker is our generation's performer. They go on the stage and they do a show, and it's not comedy. Instead of making you laugh,
I feel it's quite comedic.
a stand-up comedian goes on the stage and their job is to make you laugh, and a motivational speaker goes on the stage and their job is to make you feel good about yourself. And you get a high, and then that wears off, and then you go to the next motivational speaker or read the next self-help book or next.
But it really is the mechanism of addiction, because people have gotten accustomed to these rapid fire highs of chemicals of like, I'm doing it.
I think there's this thing you guys were mentioning quite a while back about video games and how in video games you really feel so like you're guaranteed to get better, and I feel so that's the thing with video games. It's like, oh, you're guaranteed. It's like nothing you do is exactly like, unless you die and the game says you failed, you died, you suck. It's
Dark Souls.
Yeah, exactly. Unless that happens, you're always guaranteed some type of progress, and that's kind of what it feels like a lot of the times. People are asking of, I don't know, it's just people that they admire or something. It's just like, okay, oh, can I do this? Oh, you're looking for a guarantee. It's like, because you're not really guaranteed things when you try an experiment. You're not really guaranteed things when you try to improve.
And it shifts the responsibility.
Exactly.
Because if you don't achieve it, it's like, well, but this person who I respect told me I could do it. Therefore, they're wrong, not me. Like, I didn't fuck up. They fucked up because they told me I could do it. And I believed them. Oh, stupid me for believing them.
But again, this does still tie into that thing that we were talking about with the students and teachers. It's like, if you yourself as a student are not invested, if you're not in it, if you're not taking responsibility for what you're learning and what you're getting out of it, you're gonna be, oh, well, the teacher taught me wrong. Oh, well, what can I do? I'm just a student. I was just following their thing. I was just doing this.
Yeah.
You still, you can get something out of it. You can still learn. Because I've encountered bad teachers, and I still took things from them.
I think we both approached being a student, because outwardly we approach it very differently. Clearly. But inwardly, I think we both approach it as hunters. And we have prey that, okay, how do I get my prey? And when it's about that, it doesn't really matter about the teacher. It's all about you. Like, can you get the information out of the teacher? Not can the teacher give you information? Can the teacher help you? But can you get it? Like, this person has it. They have the thing you want. And you could think of it as you're a thief or you're an assassin or something, but whatever. It's a very predatory thing. Like, I need to seek this out, and it's all on me. Because an assassin, if they fail, it's not on that person. Oh, I was gonna kill him. I was on the building. I had my sniper rifle, but then he went into the market, and I didn't think he was gonna go into the market.
Like, all the teachers.
You like that?
I guess I did.
Okay.
All the teachers that I've met that I sort of respected or admired or, I don't know, got along with or got things out of, always had this, like, had the flip side to this about students that they wanted. It's like, I'm not here to teach you. I'm not just gonna sit here and recite crap for 3 hours at a course or 1 hour or 2 hours or however long it was. But what I do want is here's the course, here's the curriculum, here are the excerpts from the course, and you come with questions, you come with your thoughts on it, you ask me. It's like, be involved, there was a guy who, I had him in university, and then he was teaching us statistics, and he was the first one that actually verbalized it. And the sad part is, not many of my 200 people in the year liked him for that. He said, if you guys don't have any questions, I'm just going to fill my quota of 3 hours that I have to sit here, and I'm just going to, I don't know, open up Wikipedia and show you stuff on whatever. If you're not going to get involved, if you're not going to put in the work, then I am also going to be passive. And people really didn't like it. The girls were just talking about it, like gossiping, like, oh, he doesn't even teach us, oh, he doesn't even whatever. And on the other hand, I've had so many teachers that just, as the class would start, they would turn around, turn their backs to the class, not even look at the students, and just write crap on the blackboard. It's like, who's gonna remember that? Who's gonna be invested in that? Who's gonna, like, what is expected of a student in such a class is that they also have to turn their backs, they also have to be passive and just mindlessly memorize things. What are they gonna get out of it? Nothing.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess we've been talking for long enough.
Yeah.
So.
Especially Bob. He's got to be tired.
Yeah.
He's spent.
You look like you're about to fall asleep.
Well, I didn't get that much sleep, but anyways.
Oh. So next month, I guess you're not going to be with us on the next one?
Mm-hmm.
Probably going to. Yeah, Bob's going to be taking care of his father's household for a while. But, yeah, one thing I did want to bring up for people who want to see more guests on, one of the reasons we don't have that is because right now we're all in one room, so we can, talk and use one microphone. We don't have, like, all these. I wouldn't even know. I'm sure it's possible. I'm sure there's some technical person who's like, oh, all you need is this blah, blah, blah thing and a bunch of headphones. And
if you are that technical person, you're free to...
help.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's kind of like we don't really have a setup for. I mean, we tried to do it last time with Cynics, and that didn't work out very well. So
as most interviews with Cynics.
Anyway, Cynics is a cool guy though.
Yeah, just interviewing he's like a vampire. He just doesn't show up in mirrors.
It's just bad luck. It's just bad luck.
Oh, I think he does something to devices. I think that's why he has to use such low-tech stuff. Because, like, the new age technology can't handle him.
Yeah. Yeah. With that said, thank you very much for all of the listeners who are still here, who could tolerate this. Or the ones who are fuming. Fuck you, I hate you. You say I'm gonna write the comments. God damn it. What they're saying right now, I don't. Yeah, well, at least you stuck through it. So I appreciate you holding back. For people who skipped, haha, aren't you clever? Congrats on being clever, I guess. You learned nothing. Get to feel cool though.
It's okay. It's fine.
I listened to the whole thing. I didn't learn anything either. So you can't be saying, because if they skip, they learn nothing. I also learn nothing and listen.
Yeah, but see, that requires so much more logic than such a person would be capable of. You can't do it. You can do the accent, but you can't do the mindset. Thankfully, thank God.
You can't tell me what I can or can't do. Nobody can tell me that.
Nobody. It's not their place.
Only God can tell me that. Okay. So, Flavia, Bob, thanks so much for doing this, talking. Everybody who is listening, if you are like me, you didn't get anything out of it, then why should we tune in next month, right? But if you did, then yeah, you can tune in if you want. I would say thanks for watching, and I hope it helped.